What the f? Let's get serious. Is this thing on? Hey y'all, I'm back with another tutorial. And surprise, you get to see my face today. Trying something new. It was suggested by a friend. I don't know if I'm gonna make this a habit though, because I'm so awkward in front of the camera. It might not seem like it to you, but this feels a little crazy. If it's your first time here, thank you for joining us. If you are returning, thank you for coming back to deal with my shenanigans. So today we are doing another tutorial. But what else will we be here to do, right? We're not doing dominoes. We are not doing rolling trays. Today I decided to go to the beach. We are going to the beach. It's summertime. It's time to get into some sun, some fun, sand in between our toes, and that's what we're gonna do today. I was so inspired by the warm weather, which quickly up here in Pennsylvania decided to become fall weather. I don't know what Mother Nature's been thinking, but I was inspired by the weather and the warm weather and the fact that summer is coming, and I decided to try doing beach tumblers. So I did do beach tumblers. I have a 30-ounce skinny beach tumbler here that I completed, and the decal says these beaches be salty. I have a 12-ounce wine tumbler here, and it just says salty vibes. And I have 4 Inkjoy Gel Pens. So I did all of these simultaneously. What is wrong with me, y'all? And I wanted to come and share the process with you guys, so maybe you could get beachy too. Because I don't like to waste resin, I said this before, I also made a matching coaster to go with the wine tumbler. And I just used the leftover resin for the first layer. And in the back, I just used some clear resin with a mixture of all of the glitters that was used in the process. So, I won't make you guys look at me any further. Let's get started. Let's start out with the supplies you'll need. You will need a tumbler of your choice. I'm using today a 30-ounce skinny tumbler. You might recognize it from the previous video I did removing cured resin from a tumbler. I'm also using a 12-ounce wine tumbler. I have 4 colors of spray paint, which would be gold, white, a light turquoise, and navy blue. You'll also need glitter in the colors matching the spray paint. So I have gold glitter, white glitter, 2 types of light blue glitter, and royal blue glitter. I'm also doing pins, so I have 4 pins, and I've created a whole little rig to hold them on the turner. Please don't judge me. I also have, of course, the usuals: gloves, mask, and let's get started. Okay, so I got the tumblers and the pens sanded and wiped down. I'm putting on my gloves. These are dish gloves, so I use them over and over again. Let's start out. What's this? This is the turquoise, navy blue. All right. Let's start out with the metallic gold. I'll put this to the side. So what I do is I just spray on the bottom. This will represent the sand. And I did sand these cups down. There's some leftover paint from before, but I didn't worry too much about it. It's a little windy today. Alright, so. And I don't need a lot because essentially this is like a quick undercoat. This is all going to be covered in glitter. So I'm gonna do the same thing on the wine tumbler. And I sanded this one as well, even though I didn't take off all the rose gold powder coat. But again, this does not have to be perfect. The goal is to just get a nice undercoat so that it'll assist the glitter in being apparent, pretty much. And then we're doing the same thing to the pens. Okay, so I have the pens here, and this is a little more difficult because I already have them rigged on my little foam piece so that they can stand up on their own. So I'm gonna try my best to get the gold around each one 100%. Beautiful outside, but it's windy. We've been dealing with a lot of rain. And today is Memorial Day. You guys probably won't see this for another week or two. But today is Memorial Day. And it's been a rainy, gloomy weekend here for us in Strasburg, Pennsylvania. So the tops are sprayed, and our next color is white, and I'm light on my white paint right now, but I'm gonna try my best. So, you know that. Use one of these cups to stabilize this foam. Nope, no, I'm not. Never mind. That could work. Oh, it's the wrong one. All right, let me go get the right one. Okay, so my nozzle on my first white spray paint was clogged. I'm gonna see if this one is clogged too. Hopefully not. So I'm gonna use whatever's left in this one first, and then I'll just swap the nozzles and use the rest of that one. So again, it's the same process. I'm just gonna do well, yeah, we're empty. Let me try to do this with as little editing as possible, just to see all my mistakes and my mishaps. Okay. So it's a good thing we don't need a lot of white paint because I don't have a lot of white paint. So this is going to represent like the water line where the waves kind of crash into the beach. So you don't need a lot. It doesn't need to be a thick line. And do this one. And I'm still getting the grasp of this spray painting thing. So I do realize that I have some drips. They won't necessarily show once the glitter is on it. But if you can avoid those. Hey, just a quick disclaimer. So when you use spray paint, the closer you are to the nozzle, the smaller the spray is, because when the spray paint comes out, it comes out like this, right? So if you're close to the cup, it's going to come out in a smaller stream. That's why I was causing the drips, because I wasn't moving the cup fast enough for the stream. If I was further away, it wouldn't have hit the cup until it was a larger spray. So much spray paint wouldn't go on the surface at one time. So, I don't know. You spray paint gurus out there, if you have a tip for me as to how to avoid that while spraying close to the cup, I'd greatly appreciate it. All right, back to the tutorial. So, this is going to be That's definitely gonna run. That's okay. Oh, and by the way, these are paper towel holders, if I didn't mention that already. I got them from the 99-cent store. And the piece inside is just a piece of pool noodle. I try to make it as flush as possible with the rim, so that I don't get too much overspray on the inside. And when I went inside looking for the other spray paint, I found another paper towel holder. So grab that up for the pens. So the next color is the light turquoise. And this will represent the water. Okay, turquoise, what's going on here? You're coming out a little chunky. Last thing I need is for this nozzle to clog up. And then we'll do the same thing. And then for our last color, we have this blue, dark blue. And I'm gonna get that on here too. And it comes out looking a little tealish, but it actually dries to a dark blue, like a dark navy blue. There it goes. There we go. This one smells the worst. And this is gonna help that dark blue glitter really come through without putting 1,000,001 coats. Right. And then you'll get the, see all my drips. I'll figure it out, guys. I know I'm spraying too much in one spot. My finger just a little trigger happy. Alright, that could go ahead and drip and dry there. And we got the pens. And if I didn't mention this again, these are Inkjoy Gel Pens. And the pens look like they're completely covered. And my colors are like completely running into one another, but at this point it's okay. Like I said, we're going to be covering all of this with glitter. The colors are mainly for reference so that I don't need to put more than one coat of glitter. This is the messed up nozzle. No, there's no nozzle. Okay. So I'll let those dry out here. They're going to drip and dry, and then once they're dry, I'll take them aside so we can go ahead and resin them. Alright, as promised, I'm sharing my mistakes with you guys. So I originally sprayed the pens the wrong way. I had the blue I had the blue down here, the dark blue down here, and the gold up here. But this is actually the part where the push pin, the push button part of the pin is at. So the top should be the dark blue and the bottom should be the sand where you actually write from. So I just went in and covered the gold up here with the dark blue, and then covered the dark blue here with the white and the gold, so that the glitter can look appropriate. I also came back and sprayed this one with an additional coat of the turquoise, the light turquoise, and this one I sprayed another coat of the navy blue. So I'm gonna let these dry, and then I'll come back out and get them, and we will apply the glitter using the epoxy method. Okay, I'm back inside now. Our cups are dry, and it's time to put on the first coat of resin. Well, it's not really a first coat of resin. I'm applying the glitter using the epoxy method. So I'm only mixing up 1 full ounce of epoxy. So I have a 1/2 ounce of resin, 1/2 ounce of hardener, and I'm just going to mix it up in that small cup. And then I'll show you the process of doing the epoxy method to apply glitter. Alright, so now that the resin's all mixed up, I did not realize that I was out of frame. Hopefully I fixed myself. Yeah, fixed myself. There we go. Alright, so I'm going to apply the thinnest coat possible of epoxy on the tumbler. You want it so that it makes the cup or the surface, you want it to make the surface sticky. You don't want it to run. You know epoxy is self-leveling, so it will run if there's too much there. So you just want enough epoxy so that the surface is sticky to grab the glitter and hold on to it. So I'm going to rub the epoxy on each surface, the tumbler, the wine tumbler, and the pens, and then we'll get to glittering. It also helps if your epoxy is a little warm, and well, it helps if your epoxy is a little warm, or if your tumbler is a little warm, because when the epoxy is warmed, that's when it's in its thinnest state before it starts to thicken. Alright, so I took a second to readjust my camera and the angle I was sitting in so you could see a little better. And I'm still putting the epoxy on the tumbler, and eventually at some point I will move on to the other 2 items that we have going on, okay? So I'm just going to go ahead and speed this up. It's really nothing intricate to watch, and I'll come back when I get to the glitter part. I've finished putting the epoxy on the tumbler pens and wine tumbler, and now it's time for us to start with the glitter. I like to glitter my way from the bottom up, and I also like to make sure all of my glitters are open before I start. That way I'm not needing to put the cup down multiple times throughout the process. I didn't realize that my hand was completely blocking the camera, but as you can see, I'm just sprinkling the glitter on. It's falling onto a piece of paper. That way I can put the glitter back into the container when I'm done with it. So what I'll do is I'll do each thing and then dump that color. So the only thing I'm doing different with this color and with the royal blue color is that I'm putting down a little sprinkle of chunky glitter, of a chunkier glitter to give it some dimension, because you know water's not flat. There's different levels to it. When you look at the ocean, you'll see it darken some colors, and I mean in some areas, and lighter in others. So I didn't sprinkle enough of this glitter to fully cover that area of spray paint. I just wanted to cover a piece of it, and I will fill in the other spots with the finer version of this color of glitter. So I'm going to do that for all three, for both the light blue and the royal blue. Is that royal blue? It's like a royal blue. Yeah, I'm going to do it for both of those, both blues. Let's just leave it at that. We're going to do a little sprinkle of chunky and then fill in the spaces with the fine glitter. You'll see. So now I'm putting on another glove. When you're using chunky glitter, especially when doing the epoxy method, sometimes it makes sense to pat the glitter down. If you leave it poking out like that and you put resin on, the resin is going to be very bumpy, and you're going to need to do multiple coats just to get that glitter covered. So I like to pat it down so that it's flat as possible. It won't be 100% flat, but just to get it as flat as possible so that I'm not wasting resin and time sanding and putting layer on top of layer on top of layer. I would prefer to be able to cover this glitter in one coat of resin, like one flat coat of resin, so that I can move on to the next step. Now that I've flattened out the chunky glitter, I'm going to sprinkle in the fine blue glitter to fill in the spaces, just like I did for the light blue. And I know a lot of people, when they do these tumblers, they have a tendency to do extra stuff to ombre the glitter. I haven't done that. This is only my second time doing a beach tumbler or doing an ombre tumbler. Period. But I don't really feel a need to do the extra work to get that real faded ombre for the beach tumbler, and you'll see why later once we add the water waves. So I'm gonna finish this process, do the same process for the other items, and then I don't know what we move on to after that. We'll see when we get there. Okay, I had a little bit of resin left over, a little bit of epoxy. I don't know, people get really anal about whether you call it resin or epoxy. It's epoxy resin, same difference. Anywho, I had a little left over. I don't like to waste, so we're going to mix some blue glitter in the epoxy, and I'm going to make a matching coaster. So I'm going to prop it up. It was still a little too liquid, so I propped it up on another coaster that I made before so that the blue could stay in that corner, because I'm going to do the same thing with the light blue and with the gold. Our epoxy is dry, and I do choose to stabilize the glitter using a clear coat spray. I use the Rust-Oleum 2x clear coat. I use a matte finish, that's why it may look a little dry, but once the epoxy goes on, it does bring back the shine of the glitter. Now that the 2x clear coat is dry, I can go ahead and put the epoxy on so that we can let this cure for 24 hours and come back and start the next step. Okay, now that everything is covered in a nice generous coat of epoxy, I have the rest of it. I split into 3 1-ounce cups. One of those cups will get colored with white acrylic paint. The other cup will get colored with blue acrylic paint, as you see right now. It's like a light aqua kind of color. And the third cup will get gold glitter. The gold glitter and the aqua are going to be for the coaster that we started, and the white paint in the epoxy is going to be for the water waves we're going to create on the tumblers and the pens. So I'm going to mix that up and then we'll get started with the water waves. Now that we have the white all mixed up, I'm going to create some level of wave on the coaster so that can sit for a while until I'm ready to pour our blue water in. And then we'll get started on the waves of the tumblers. I like to just drizzle the white paint on at first. I use the popsicle stick to do this. I was running low on popsicle sticks, y'all, so I broke a big one in half. I tend to do that when I run out or when I'm running low. So I'm just going to drizzle some white paint on the tumblers and the pens, and then I'll use a heat gun to kind of liquefy it a little bit and spread it out. You also see me using the popsicle stick to drag the paint across, or the epoxy across, and making physical waves. It doesn't need to be perfectly straight lines. That's the whole point. So you don't want them to come out straight. You'll see that using the heat gun will, help this a little bit more as far as like getting rid of that level of perfection, because that's not what we're looking for. We're not looking for perfect lines. Water waves are not perfect. Please keep in mind the process of me creating these waves is sped up. I'm not really moving this fast, so when you're doing your work, don't hesitate to take your time. These things take time. These creations take time, and the more patience you put into it from the start, the better your result will be. So just be patient with yourself and enjoy the process. Here, now it's time. I'm going to create, or attempt to create, some water waves in the coaster. Why am I out of the frame? I have no idea. Okay. So I'm going to attempt to try to create water waves in the coaster. I have my blue resin mixed up as well as my golds, and I'll just let you watch the process of how I came about this. So the cups, the resin on the cups and the pens have cured. The coaster is cured as well. It still needs one more layer of Inkjoy resin. And I have my decals ready. I think the Salty Vibes decal is a little too big for my wine tumbler, so I think I'm gonna have to cut that again, slightly smaller. But first, before I do that, I need to sand everything down, make sure it's nice and smooth. It's actually not as rough as I expected it to be with the chunkier glitter. And I'm gonna sand it down, get it all smooth, and I'll apply the decal for this one. And I'm going to recut this Salty Vibes decal for the wine tumbler. So next you'll see me sanding, and it will be sped up. I don't sand fast. I take my time to make sure I get it nice and smooth because with holographic and metallic vinyls, it's easy to see like lumps and bumps through the vinyl, and it won't stick properly. So that's what I want to avoid. I want to make sure it's smooth, so it's, so that it sticks smooth as well. I do my sanding using 100 grit sandpaper. For some people, they prefer to use a sanding block. It is easier on the hands. My hands tend to cramp up sometimes when I'm using sandpaper to smooth out a cup. So if you know that you already have hand problems, my suggestion is to use a sanding block to get this done. I also, you'll notice I like to clean the rim with my X-Acto knife, and I also like to sand down the very edge to leave a little bit of the stainless steel exposed so that the epoxy can seal in the glitter. So now we can go ahead and start the process of putting on our decals. My original decal was too large. I cut it for a 21-ounce glass. I had measurements written down, and that's the measurements that I used, but I realized it was for the wrong size. So I first clean off my cups or anything that I'm putting a vinyl decal on. Clean it off with 91% alcohol, and then I make sure the vinyl decal is adhered to the transfer tape. This one was a little tricky. I put my blade on more pressure and it kind of cut through the paper backing, so I had to take my time pulling it off the decal. But here I'm going to put this on at an angle, and I'm looking to see if there's any imperfections I would like to cover. I didn't see one, so I stuck it on. And I always like to put things at an angle on my wine glasses and tumblers. I don't know why, but it's cute. I like it. And if I like it, I love it. You should too. So I just rub that on, put it to the side, and start putting the decals on the tumbler. Now this decal is not in one piece. It's a bunch of separate pieces. So I'm going to do each one by one. And as you can see, I'm using the same piece of transfer tape for all of the decals. I'm not putting any decals on the pens. I'm going to leave them as they are. And I start off with the word beaches because that's the largest word that's at the top. And I figure out where I want to place it. There's a little imperfection there. I might want to cover it up with something. So there goes the beaches. So put that on, pull the transfer tape off, and move on to the next word. And this transfer tape I'm using is not Cricut brand. It is Transfer Right. You can get it on Amazon. I'll try to link it in the description below. And I'll move on to my next word. And essentially the cup is going to say, "These beaches be salty." Me and my best friend thought it was cute, so that's what we put. So once that's done, I have also cut a couple of little things to add in. I think I have 2 seashells and a starfish, so I'm going to add those on. And these are going on in a holographic vinyl. It was a pack of 3 different colors. I believe it's the mermaid vinyl, or you know, Cricut likes to put out collections or sets, so I'm pretty sure this is like the mermaid pack of holographic vinyl. Okay, the decals are on. I didn't show this part, but I did spray the decals with clear coat to seal them in, so that once I put on the epoxy, nothing seeps under the decal and lifts it up. So I let that clear coat dry. That's why it looks a little dry and ashy right now, because I do use a matte clear coat. But that's on there. I sprayed the 2 tumblers. I didn't need to spray the pens because I didn't put a decal on them. So now I'm just going to go ahead and epoxy them and finish off the coaster, and then I guess we're done. Now that the tumblers are all nicely coated in epoxy, we are moving on to finishing the coaster. And I thought it would be a good idea to put each color of glitter in this leftover epoxy. So I'm pulling out the glitters that were used in the cups, or on the cups rather, and sprinkling just a little bit inside the resin so that I can mix it up, and that will be the complete bottom of the coaster. Now it's time to just leave our tumblers, pens, and our coaster to cure. But first I want to put a little, first I'm going to wedge this coaster up. I didn't realize how unlevel my work desk was. I will fix that later. But for now I'm just wedging a popsicle stick under the coaster mold so that the resin can cure level. I'm putting a little heat to it from my little handy dandy heat gun to pop any bubbles that are still there. And I'll also spritz the coaster with some 91% alcohol to get rid of any surface bubbles and to continue popping bubbles as they rise to the top. And then I will be back with the finished product.